Welcome aboard our home and trawler, Sea Venture. Join us and the crew as we travel, explore, and experience all the world has to offer. We hope your time with us entertains, inspires you to live the life of your dreams. If we can do it, you can do it. So let's cast off the lines and head out for our next adventure.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Cruising Sea Venture.
In this video, we're going to review our 2020 transit during the pandemic from Washington to Alaska through Canada. At the time, we created 7 short videos that we posted of our 7-day transit. In this case, what we've done now is we've re-edited those videos and into a single video and kind of cleaned it up a little bit too, because frankly, well, we've learned we're getting better at the editing part, at least hopefully the audio part too.
For this particular transit, the rules of engagement were number 1, to take the most direct route, number 2, to only make essential stops, which included anchoring at night, and number 3, not to get off the boat except for an essential reason, like if there was a medical emergency or something.
So for us aboard Sea Venture, it was just Rosie and I. We had no reason to stop for food, fuel, or water, so no plans to go to a dock, and we did not. It was just the transit and anchoring as needed.
To set the stage, we called ahead and we were left very uncertain about whether or not we could make this transit.
As it should be, it's entirely at the discretion of the customs agent handling your coming into Canada, whether to allow that trip or not, regardless of what's written down in any rules. As I said, that's as it should be, so we went to customs a little bit uncertain whether we would be allowed to transit.
At the time, and I believe it continues today, that there is some uncertainty about whether the transit, the actual purpose for transiting, needs to be essential, or whether once you are transiting, the stops need to be essential.
At the end of the 7-day series, we're going to circle back at the end of this video and kind of go over our recommendations or our thoughts about if you wanted to try to transit in 2021, what you might expect, and what, if we were going to, and actually I think we will be going the other way, what we will do to prepare for that transit. Washington to Alaska, our voyage north. On day 1, we go from Susha to Prevost Island. The customs dock at Van Isle Marina just north of Sydney, where we sit waiting for the customs officials to come to the boat.
We've cleared customs into Canada and we now can transit to Alaska, stopping only at night to anchor and not going to any communities unless we have some kind of emergency. So we are pretty happy to just be on our way. This is John's Passage, just outside of Van Isle Marina area. It's been breezy today and the water's pretty lumpy. We have the poles out and the fish are in the water. We're in Swanson Channel and I'm very glad the fish are in the water. What do you think, Barkley? Yeah. What do you think, Blake?
And Hayden texted like a woohoo, go parents or something. All right, day 1 of our new adventure, transiting to Alaska through Canada, 600 nautical miles, anchoring at night, never stepping off the boat. That's the plan. We'll just see how it goes. It's day 1. And we have just cleared through Canadian Customs and received their official approval. So we are off northbound in the Gulf Islands, headed toward Jones Bay on Prevost Harbor. James Bay on Prevost Harbor.
We are anchored in beautiful James Bay on Prevost Island. It's a lovely, calm evening after all the winds we've experienced the last couple days. And here we have a little bit of the sunset. Join us tomorrow as Sea Venture continues her journey north through British Columbia.
Washington to Alaska, our voyage north. On day 2, we go from Prevost Island to Northwest Bay. We're looking at predict wind for today, July 2nd. We're right here, the north end of Prevost. We're going to cruise up through Dodd Narrows right here that we have to time with a slack tide. And maybe a bypass Nanaimo and come up to Nanoose Harbor up here for the evening. So we look at the weather. This is 8 o'clock, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. We can't really be here till like 3:30 for the slack tide, so we'll get a later start today. And then a nice calm
But it looks good
water
north of there, yeah.
Yeah, a nice calm water out in the Strait of Georgia to come up around this Lanceville area or up to Parksville area. A couple possible anchorages for this evening, which leaves us open to run the northern half of the Strait of Georgia tomorrow. Anyway, that's the theory. We'll see how it plays out. One sailboat anchored close to the dock and then shore tide back.
This is our approach to Dodd Narrows. We're heading northbound.
Approaching Dodd Narrows about 45 minutes before slack tide, so the current is about 3 or so knots in our favor. Normally would come at slack tide, though often in the summer at slack tide this is a zoo of boats going both ways, and frankly I think the other boats are potentially more of an issue than the current or the water. So today we're about 45 minutes early and it looks like we're going to transit through all by ourselves. It could also be a COVID-19 thing in that there's virtually no American boats up here. And that may be one reason why there's so little traffic as well.
Yeah, fast we go.
Woohoo! Let's see how fast we can go, huh? 8 knots right now. With the narrow part of Dodd Narrows coming up. Maybe we'll hit 10 knots going through here. 8.4 knots and so far totally benign. It's really just a dog leg with a little narrow spot here that's going to spit us out. Like I said, I think the water here is usually not much of an issue. The real strong current is actually off to the sides, so I think it would actually be hard to get to the rocks. Usually the issue here is always other boaters. Have to admit, usually power boaters, not sailboaters.
knots.
9.8, 9.9, 10, woohoo, 10 knots. 10.2. 10.4.
And we're split out the other side.
Yeah. Well, if there could be an advertisement for showing up here 45 minutes early, that would be it. That's got to be probably the easiest transit of Dodd Narrows I've ever had. Now on this side we get a bunch of whirlpool and swirly currents because I think we have water going both directions as we get closer to slack. It's very interesting.
How about you, Blake? What, do you think it's going down that way is a little safer? Join us tomorrow as Sea Venture continues her journey north through British Columbia.
Washington to Alaska, our voyage north on day 3, when we go from Northwest Bay to Gowland Harbor.
Leaving the bay on a beautiful calm morning. Good morning. It is our 3rd travel day and our 4th day on this trip and our 5th quarantine day.
Yep, that's it.
To get it all
I don't know
right.
whether you can see me from over here, but
We got Blake here helping us out. Yeah, we've got a great calm weather day, so it's a nice change from the last time we traveled. We took a day to let the weather work its way out and let the seas calm a little bit, and now we have really no wind predicted all the way up to Campbell River. So we're going to enjoy this, hopefully enjoy this run up, and the sun's out as well. It's all good. Here's the Strait of Georgia as we approach Hornby. This is a lot of the kind of water we love to boat in. The no wind, flat seas, maybe a little bit of wind and flat seas. Just looks terrific out here. The other thing we do during cruising time is boat projects. Jim's working on a more secure tie down for the anchor for when we're underway.
we continue on day 3 of our travel up the Strait of Georgia in beautiful, calm water. Traveling between 7 and 8 knots because we have the current with us that we timed effectively. On course, next course changes in about 3 hours as we approach Campbell River at the northern end of the Strait of Georgia. Looks like we'll finish today up with this beautiful calm water and prep ourselves to go through Surge Narrows, Seymour. Prep ourselves to go through Seymour Narrows very early in the morning. Otherwise, what a nice, relaxing day. Cat's asleep. Rosie and I taking turns about 2 hours on, 2 hours off. Gives us plenty of time to snack and sleep and relax and enjoy the cruise. These are our friends Kurt and Marsha on Alpenglow. who ended up cruising with us all the way to Alaska. Well, we've cruised all day today, about 8 hours, and we are at the very northern end of the Strait of Georgia at the entrance where Campbell River is and Mudge Point. And Seymour Narrows is about 16 or 17 miles further north. It's actually a full moon right now this time of the month, which makes the tides the biggest, which makes the currents the biggest. So Seymour Narrows was running at 15 knots a little bit ago. We're not going there tonight though. We're just going to go up past Campbell River to an anchorage. But first we've got to face the challenge of getting up the channel in front of Campbell River, where we are, how far? 3.5 nautical miles away. We've throttled way back going into the current because right now the current up there in front of town is 7 knots against us. So we can't do that. So we've throttled way back and going to see if we can take about 45 more minutes to get into that area, or maybe up to an hour, and then we should be fighting a 2 or 3 knot current, which while it will make us slow, it's doable at least. So that's the plan. Just have to kind of plan around these massive tidal currents in this area. But the plan, hopefully tomorrow morning, we'll go through Seymour Narrows and we'll take those massive tidal currents in our favor for as much of the day as we can. All kinds of fun.
This is Campbell River as we cross in front of the marinas, and we have the ferry, the car ferry that takes folks from Vancouver Island over to Quatra Island. Enjoying the breeze, are you? Huh? Oh goodness.
Here's Growland Harbor, just north of Campbell River and south of Seymour Narrows. We've anchored for the night. It's just a beautiful area, surrounded by homes and stuff, but that's okay. It's just great.
Join us tomorrow as Sea Venture continues her journey north through British Columbia.
Washington to Alaska, our voyage north on day 4, where we go from Gowland Harbor to somewhere out past Cape Caution in the open water as we do our overnight passage.
It's 4:15 and we are pulling up the anchor.
Hey everybody, good morning. 4:15 in the morning, left in the dark, just beginning to get a little bit of a sunrise as we head toward the Seymour Narrows 6 a.m. slack that should flush us northbound toward Alaska this morning. So anchor up in the dark.
It's about 5 o'clock now. It's easy, much easier to see here outside. And we have this full moon helping us along. There's Campbell River in that direction. And we're heading north to Seymour Narrows. This is entering Seymour Narrows.
It's large and pretty benign at slack tide.
And we are 1 minute from slack. So we're right at the mark.
But this spot can run up to 16 knots. And it will be in 3 hours from now. So you have to time this with slack. It's also the location of the famous Ripple Rock. There used to be a big rock in the middle that was underwater, just under the surface, that caused huge problems, lots of shipwrecks. It was, you can Google it and read all about the massive explosion that removed Ripple Rock. They tunneled from the island on our starboard side under the channel and up into the rock, and then packed it full of explosives. Traveling north of Seymour Narrows. Now, it just doesn't get any nicer or more beautiful out than this morning. Looking out over the bow in front of Kelsey Creek, we're going 13 knots. This water is traveling at 6 knots, the same direction we are. All this little choppiness you see on the water is all related to current. No wind. I think we're going to come up on an area where we're suddenly going to have a significant current against us, where current is switching directions right here. So let's see what happens now. 12.9 knots. Some nice whirlpools. We're slowing 9 knots, water still in our favor.
God, I hope I'm getting these guys. I don't. I think so. Yeah, there he is. Look at him.
4 of them.
Yeah. They're so fun. We are cruising up Johnstone Strait, and we've just passed the entrance here. This is Hansen Island, and this is the entrance to Blackfish Sound. The water was a little squirrely right through here, but yeah, this is the kind of the entrance to the Brock Group, and we've had lots of exploring there. But this year we're transiting, so we are just going to continue north.
Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police is on the water to detect cross-border crime and help keep Canada safe. During the COVID-19 pandemic, this includes screening travelers between ports of entry for compliance with travel restrictions and public health orders. The RCMP and all law enforcement marine patrols are dedicated to serving our communities and preventing the spread of COVID-19. We appreciate your cooperation and urge all mariners to stay safe. This is Victoria Coast Guard Radio Continuous Marine Broadcast.
We got a little bit of lumpy water pretty close to Port McNeil, and it's wind opposing current here. We have about 24 knots of wind right now. 10-minute average is 23, so yeah, a fair amount of wind. And the current in our favor, so we have the wind coming toward us, the current going the same direction we are, and it's building these seas and making it just a little choppy, but not untenable. However, Blake, excuse me, is not impressed. So we're doing a lot of kitty cuddling right now. We're in this wind opposing current, and the kitten's not impressed. So Blake gets a little bit of food, and he's kind of taken over the helm chair. We can't have our kitten worried now, can we? A bit more? All right, things are calming down a little bit. It's been about a half hour, 45 minutes. And yeah, we still have Blake in the helm chair. And now we've got Barkley joining us in the kitty chair. And that's my chair. There you go. Okay, it's 9 p.m. and we're approaching Pine Island up here. And we have put the fish in the water. And now we're working our way towards Cape Caution. We have an ETA of about 10:45 to get there. And then we'll continue on up Hecate Strait to what hopefully will be an epic anchorage tomorrow night. Pine Island Lighthouse. Wait for the swells to lighten up a little bit. Join us tomorrow as Sea Venture continues her overnight passage north through British Columbia.
Washington to Alaska, our voyage north on day 5, where we go from offshore around Cape Caution to McMicking Inlet on Campania Island. Well, I've turned on the red lights, so hopefully you guys can see me. It is 3:30 in the morning, so I thought I would show you what I see. Normally I don't have these red lights on, I just keep it dark. Let me just grab the camera and turn it around for you so you can see my view. Out the window is nothing, but we've got 1 depth sounder, 2 depth sounder, autopilot, radar operating, 1 navigation system, and most importantly the FLIR thermal imaging camera, which is like looking in the daylight straight ahead so we can see. And then I'll spin around in the galley. We have additional navigation computer running. It is 6 a.m. The next morning. And we are back to regular daytime boating with coffee. Oh yeah, yeah, it's a rough life over here. Oh, there's his back. He's an active one. Look at it. Yeah. Crossing over from Pine Island, we have now reached McGinnis Island.
last leg of our overnight voyage, and we're approaching our anchorage. And here is what you don't want to hit. This is the tree you don't want to hit as you're cruising in. This is the west coast of Pandemie Island, which will be our anchorage for the night after we left Campbell River yesterday morning. No wind and flat seas. Oh yeah.
We're approaching our anchorage on Pandemie Island. I don't know if looking ahead you can see where we're going to anchor. It is 3.5 more miles in. Can you see it? I sure can't see any idea where we're going to go, but we're going to go follow the chart carefully and see if we can find our way in.
The sun is setting to the west, and we're going to head here to the west side of Pandemie Island on the east side of the channel. Got some debris in the water, but you can see it because the water's pretty flat, and we're going to make our way through these rocky shoal areas here and up into an anchorage in front of this little mountain. Lots of debris in the water here.
Using the chart, we're finding our way back to this anchorage.
Join us tomorrow as Sea Venture continues her journey north through British Columbia.
Washington to Alaska, our voyage north on day 6 when we go from McMicken Inlet to Kelp Passage Anchorage. It was a day of rain and fog and not too much to see except for logs and kitties.
It's low tide, and this is our anchorage at McMicken Inlet. Looks like it would be pretty cool to take a tender or a kayak and wander all around. There's a cat touring. Whoops. And over there is our buddy boat from our overnight voyage. Alpenglow. Morning playtime before we get started. That was graceful, Barkley. We're staying on the correct side of this current line. Not only is there a ton of debris in the water, but we are managing 8.4 knots, which is actually really pretty terrific. Would not want to hit any of these guys.
This is the beautiful Petrel Channel that we're entering from the south. It'll narrow and we'll continue on for about 15 more miles to our anchorage. But it looks like we may not get to see too much today.
In this really calm water, the log debris is easy to see. But there's one here that is quite frightening, actually. Let's see if I can find him. There it is. The kind of log you don't want to run into. That is absolutely for sure. Nice little line there. I think you're right on. Oh! Join us tomorrow as Sea Venture makes her final passage on her journey north through British Columbia on to Alaska.
Washington to Alaska, our voyage north on day 7, our final day, as we go from Kelt Passage across the U.S.-Canadian border to Foggy Bay, Alaska. And you're off. Weather must be good. Alaska today. That's the plan.
And now we're entering Chatham Sound, which will be the bulk of our passage for today as we get to Dixon Entrance and work our way into Alaska. It's a beautiful, calm morning, glassy water. Just absolutely gorgeous. This is the infamous Dixon Entrance, and you can see the crossing today will be beautiful. We've rounded Dundas Island, and now we're headed to the border where we will use the Roam app to clear into customs. It used to be you had to go into Ketchikan to clear, but now you can use the Roam app on your phone, which makes it much easier and gives us an opportunity to go places after crossing the border besides Ketchikan. Crossed the border and cleared customs, and we are now in Alaska. we're still crossing Dixon Entrance.
As we get close to the end of our 7-day transit here to Alaska, I think we have to mention that if you've watched the entire series of short videos, first is congratulations. And admittedly, it kind of came out a little boring, but that's what the transit was. There was really no trauma, no drama, pretty straightforward and surprisingly comfortable and not as difficult as one might think. So we hope you enjoyed watching. There's a little more to go, but we had a great time filming it and a great time doing the transit. Entering Foggy Bay, Alaska.
And it's foggy.
And it's a little foggy.
As you can see, we had excellent weather during our trip, which really made it a good, easy trip. We'd done the trip before, but actually we'd always done it in 2 or 3 week, 4 week windows. And so this was the first time that we did a direct route. And it really turned out to be a lot easier than we thought it would be.
So thinking about your potential transit in 2021 or our intended transit to head south in 2021, what we don't know. We don't know if the rules that are currently in place are going to stay. We're not sure what changes there would be. We don't know what interpretation of those rules there might be. We don't know whether there will be restrictions for us entering Washington. There are restrictions right now if you transit up here for entering Alaska and what those requirements might be. So there remains a bunch of unknowns.
What we do know, and what we will practice when we head south, is to plan a route ahead of time and be prepared to have a copy for the customs agent if they ask for it. And if possible, stick to the plan. Of course, if there are weather problems or something, do be sure to stay safe. But otherwise, try to stick with your plan and do the transit.
Yeah, and the more detail, the better, because it just conveys that you have a plan. You've thought this out. You've got something to execute on.
And one more thought. As you're transiting, don't get lost in desolation or the Broughtons.
Do not. I think there was anecdotal evidence that maybe some of that happened in 2020. And our experience transiting up in 2020 is that Canadians were paying attention to what American boats were doing. And which is fine. That's absolutely fine. But I think if there's boats that are getting lost where they shouldn't be getting lost and not transiting on the most direct route, there's a real chance that if it happens, will ruin this opportunity for others to transit during the summer. Because remember, the rules can change at a moment's notice at any point in time.
So be respectful. Absolutely.
I would also, and we will follow all the rules related to bringing your boat through Canada. And we all know that have done it. There's restrictions for food, and there's very strict restrictions related to alcohol, which is always a big issue. And everyone has done like the ship's stores, and we live aboard, and we don't count the open stuff. And, understand, every Canadian customs officer has heard all those things like 35 times a day for the last 10 years. But I wouldn't give them any reason to say no if they could. And so in this case, we'll bypass those issues, and we'll just stick with the required amount. And it's not like you can stop in Canada and buy any anyway. And you're only going to be taking a week or so to get up here, and you get to catch a can, and there's a big liquor store, so you're good to go.
Things to think about as part of route planning is that there's a couple guides you can use. There's the North Coast of BC, and there's also the Wagoner Cruising Guide. This one is updated, so it'll give you where you can get fuel if you need to make fuel stops, things like that. So those are good guides to help you with your float plan.
And the 2021 one now includes Alaska as
Yeah,
well, Southeast Alaska. So, and then to follow up on the Wagoneer guide, which is I think going to be the most current printed guide to assist you, if you go to wagoneerguide.com, they'll keep their website, I'm pretty confident,
Updated.
they'll keep their website updated with the latest information that they have. So I think that's going to be a great potential resource for what's going on at the border at any given time.
Right.
If you think you would want to go with a group, the Wagoneer does do a flotilla thing. You can check that out on their website. I think they're still planning to do it. Just depending, and work with the restrictions that are in place. So that's always an option as well. So you've decided to transit. You've gotten to Alaska.
So what can you expect? Fantastic cruising and less boats and no cruise ships.
In 2020, I think there were, you know, you could count on two hands all the nights that we anchored with one other boat in an anchorage. I don't know that we spent a single night in 2020 with two other boats in an anchorage. Maybe one, I don't know. But it was pretty remarkable, the cruising.
Once you are here in Alaska, then you can move from community to community without any problems. And yeah, just be safe and be respectful of the COVID situation that's still going on.
Yeah,
and all these communities would love to see you come and open your wallet a little bit.
Yeah, bring your wallet.
Yeah, they could use it.
Yeah, they can.
It's been pretty quiet.
So our end advice, step up to the challenge. Have some fun. If you want to come to Alaska and you can transit. Do it. Go to our website, www.cruisingseaventure.com. Let us know, and we'll see if we can figure out how to connect up sometime or somewhere this summer in Southeast Alaska.
So until next time,
wishing you no wind and flat seas. Bye, everybody.